Let me ask you something that might hit close to home. When was the last time you stopped and wondered if taking care of yourself privately might be hurting you more than helping at your age? A lot of men tell me they just try not to think about it, hoping it'll go away. Truth is, I hear this all the time. It usually comes out at the end of a regular checkup. Blood pressure's fine, cholesterol's decent, then there's this pause. The man fidgets a bit, clears his throat, and quietly asks, "Doc, is it still okay that I handle things myself sometimes?" They're embarrassed, like it's a secret they've been holding for years. Just last week Harold, who's 68, sat in my office. He's tough, spent decades fixing pipes, raising kids, paying off a house. But right then he looked almost small. He wanted to know if touching himself was somehow making things worse down there. You could see the relief on his face when I told him he wasn't the only one wondering. So why all the fear? A lot of it goes back to old ideas. Maybe someone once told you it was wrong, maybe you picked up bits and pieces that made it seem dangerous. And now, after 60, you're left with quiet doubts that weigh on you more than you'd ever admit. Here's my promise. Today, we're going to talk about this plainly, like two old friends. I'll tell you what's helpful, what's worth watching, and how to make sure this stays a healthy part of your life. Because isn't that why you're still here listening? You want to keep enjoying life without wondering if there's something creeping up on you. So let's start by figuring out why there's so much confusion in the first place. Ever stop to wonder why this topic ties so many older men in knots? It's not like you suddenly stopped being a man when you turned 60. You still feel desire. You still want that private relief. So why so much worry? Part of it is the jumble of old ideas that never quite went away. Maybe growing up someone hinted it was dirty or shameful. Maybe a buddy told you some horror story. And then you look online today and it's a mess. One article says it'll save your prostate, the next claims it ruins your drive. No wonder it's confusing. Not long ago, I had two brothers, Tom and Frank, in my office. Tom's 72, Frank's 68. After we went through their usual heart checks, Tom elbowed Frank and said, "Go on, ask him." Frank finally blurted out, "Is it true that still doing this could mess up my hormones?" You could tell he'd carried that question for years. The honest truth is, most men just want straight answers. No judgment, no giggles. They want to know if this is helping them stay strong or quietly tearing them down. So today, let me give you exactly that. No scare tactics, no sugarcoating. Just clear facts so you can decide for yourself what's right for you. And since good news always feels better first, let's start with some real reasons this might still be one of the simplest ways to keep your health on track. Think for a second. When's the last time anyone talked to you openly about your sexual health without cracking a joke or dancing around the topic? Most guys can't remember. That's exactly why so many end up quietly wondering if they're doing harm by handling their own needs. I had Earl, 65, come in recently. We ran through his blood work, checked his heart. He stayed in the chair after we finished, looking like he had something else on his mind. Then out it came in a whisper. "Doc, is it bad that I still do that sometimes? It's been weighing on me." You could see the years of quiet worry pour out. That's why we're having this chat. Because it's not just about getting relief. It's also about wondering if maybe you've been speeding up problems without even knowing. I want you to see exactly how this fits into your overall health, so you're not stuck guessing. And here's the thing. This isn't about me telling you to stop or keep going. It's about giving you a real map, so you can steer your own ship without second guessing. So how about we start with some pretty encouraging truths? You might be surprised just how many ways this simple act could still be working in your favor. Let me put it plainly. When was the last time you thought about the tiny tissues inside your penis, not just whether it gets hard, but the parts that actually make that happen? Most men don't, at least not until things stop working the way they used to. The truth is, as we age, blood doesn't flow quite as easily. Those spongy chambers inside your penis rely on fresh blood to stay stretchy and healthy. Without regular activity, they can lose some of that bounce, just like muscles that never get used. I had Gerald, 71, come in worrying he was shrinking. Sounds funny, but it's more common than you'd think. He said, "Doc, I swear it looks smaller than it used to." I told him it's not all in his head. Without regular erections, even ones from simple private time, those tissues can tighten up, leading to just that problem. That's why masturbation still matters. Each time you get hard, it's like doing light exercise for those tissues. Fresh oxygen, fresh nutrients, all keeping things in working order. And no, you don't need a set schedule like going to the gym. But regular activity, even solo, helps protect against the gradual changes that creep in when you're older. So don't think of this as some guilty habit. It's basic upkeep, like stretching your back so it doesn't stiffen. You're helping keep everything in shape so you're not caught off guard down the line. And next, I want to show you how this same private habit is actually doing something for a small gland in your body that often gets ignored, until it starts causing real trouble. You'll want to hear this. Here's something most guys barely give a thought to: their prostate. You probably only think about it if you're getting up 3 times a night or after hearing someone you know got bad news. But your prostate's there working quietly every day. It's more than just a tiny part that helps make semen. It's also wrapped around the tube you pee through. As you get older, it can swell up or worse, become cancerous. That's why so many men end up needing pills or procedures. Here's the neat part. Studies, including some big ones from places like Harvard, show that men who ejaculate more often have a lower risk of prostate cancer. One research group found that men who did so about 21 times a month had less trouble than those who barely did at all. Now don't get hung up on the exact number. The point is, regular release seems to help flush out stuff that could irritate the prostate. Bill, 67, an accountant I've seen for years, always looked embarrassed talking about this. When I explained how masturbation could actually protect his prostate, he cracked up and said, "Well, Doc, that's the best prescription I've ever gotten." So no, it's not a magic shield. Your diet, family history, overall health, they all play a part. But if something this natural might lower your odds, why feel strange about it? Up next, I'll show you how this habit helps out some little muscles you probably don't think about until you start leaking a bit when you laugh. Trust me, you'll want to keep these strong. Let me ask you something personal. Ever had one of those little leaks when you cough or laugh? Or felt it takes a lot more effort to keep an erection than it used to? That usually ties back to muscles you've likely never thought much about: your pelvic floor. These muscles sit like a hammock under your bladder and prostate. They help control your stream and support blood flow. Every time you climax, these muscles flex hard. It's one reason regular orgasms, even on your own, help keep them firm. Leonard, 70, was embarrassed to admit he'd sometimes dribble after using the bathroom. I explained how those same muscles that stop your stream mid-pee also help with erections. Each orgasm is like a mini workout for them. That put him at ease. It's nice knowing something you already enjoy is quietly protecting against leaks and helping things stay firm. So if you thought masturbation was just about release, think again. It's doing double duty, supporting muscles you'll definitely miss if they get weak. Next, let's tackle how this same act is one of the best ways to dial down stress hormones that mess with your heart, sleep, and mood. You might be surprised by how quickly it helps. Let me ask you something simple. How often do you catch yourself feeling tense, shoulders tight, mind buzzing with a dozen little worries? Stress doesn't let up just because you're older. If anything, it finds sneakier ways to settle in. What most men don't realize is how powerfully orgasm hits the brakes on stress. It's not just about feeling good for a moment. When you climax, your body releases chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine that lower tension and ease your mind. Even better, it drops your levels of cortisol, the main stress hormone that quietly raises your blood pressure and messes with your sleep. I remember Ron, 64, who'd been up half the night for months, replaying little problems in his head. He didn't want sleeping pills, so we talked through small habits, and I also suggested he not feel shy about letting his body do what it was designed to do. A month later, he laughed in my office, "Doc, I can't believe it, I'm sleeping almost through the night again." This isn't magic. It doesn't erase bills or fix family worries. But it is a built-in reset your body knows how to use. So why not lean on it now and then? It's better than carrying that heavy load in your chest day after day. And remember, better sleep means sharper memory, a steadier heart, and even stronger immune defenses. That's a whole lot of good from something as simple as taking a private moment. Next, I'll show you how this habit helps you quietly keep tabs on your own health. You might catch little issues early that would otherwise sneak by. That's worth paying attention to. Let me throw out a question you probably haven't asked yourself. When's the last time you really paid attention to your private parts, not just seeing if things worked, but actually noticing if everything felt the same? Most men never do unless pain finally forces them to. That's one of the hidden gifts of masturbation. By spending time with your own body, you're far more likely to spot small changes, a new bump, a bit of firmness, a spot that's suddenly tender. That can be the difference between catching something early or facing it later when it's a much bigger deal. Steve, 66, was embarrassed to say he found a hard little patch along his shaft. Because he still felt comfortable taking private time, he noticed it fast. We got him to a specialist, and it turned out to be minor. If he'd waited, it could have been a far trickier problem. I always tell patients, knowing what's normal for you makes it easy to see what's not. That's not about poking yourself every day in worry. It's just staying familiar so nothing gets by you quietly. So next time you have some private time, think of it as more than stress relief. It's also a simple, smart way to watch over your own health. Up ahead, I'll show you how this habit helps you drift off to sleep, the kind that leaves you feeling truly rested. Let's get into that next. Here's something worth thinking about. How many nights have you stared at the ceiling, rolling from side to side, hoping your mind would slow down? Sleep just doesn't come as easily after 60. Your body changes, and stress doesn't do you any favors either. This is where orgasm does something pretty amazing. It triggers a wave of calming chemicals like oxytocin and prolactin. Your heart rate drops, muscles let go, your mind gets quieter. Meanwhile, cortisol, that stress hormone that keeps you on edge, drops right along with it. That's why so many men find they can take a full, easy breath afterward and finally let go. Ron, the same fellow who struggled with worry, wasn't unique. I've heard countless men tell me that some quiet private time was what finally helped them stay asleep. And that's not embarrassing. That's just smart, using your own body's built-in tools instead of lying awake all night. Good sleep does more than keep you from being cranky. It protects your heart, keeps your memory sharper, and even helps your immune system. I tell men all the time, it's the cheapest, most powerful medicine around. So if you're staring at the dark, mind racing, don't be shy. Let your body do what it knows how to do. You might be surprised how quickly that quiet relief tips you into real rest. Next, I'll show you how this also supports circulation, not just to your penis but to the whole area down there. And that has bigger health payoffs than you might think. Let me ask you something simple. When you think about circulation, do you ever think past your heart and legs? Most men never stop to consider that their pelvis needs steady blood flow just as much. Your bladder, prostate, and yes, your penis all depend on it. When you go too long without regular erections, blood doesn't sweep through those tiny vessels the same way. The tissues can slowly get less oxygen, and that's when subtle problems start creeping in, from weaker firmness to your bladder muscles losing some of their tone. I had Walt, 70, a retired firefighter, come to me saying he felt this odd heavy drag low in his belly. Not real pain, just uncomfortable. After some questions, we realized he hadn't had an erection in months. I told him gentle private time brings fresh blood into all that tissue. It's like flushing out old pipes so nothing builds up. A few weeks later, he was back in my office saying he felt normal again. This isn't just about your penis working. Keeping blood moving helps your prostate and bladder stay healthier too. It's a quiet maintenance job you might not feel day to day, but your body sure benefits. So don't think this is only about sex. It's really about taking care of all the plumbing down there. Staying active in this simple way is one of the easiest, most natural habits you can keep. Next, we'll talk about how this private time is also a chance to get a better handle on your timing, something that starts mattering more when you're not 20 anymore. Let's get into that. Let me get right to it. Ever worry you're getting too close too fast? Or maybe finishing before you or your partner want you to? That starts creeping up on a lot of men in their 60s and 70s. That's where masturbation can quietly help. When you're on your own, you get to pay attention to what builds you up, how fast things rise, and what little signals pop up right before you tip over. You can slow down, back off, or try different rhythms without feeling like someone's waiting on you. I had Carl, 68, who was embarrassed that with his wife, he felt like he barely started before it was all over. We talked about how solo time could be practice, not a chore, just paying attention. A month later he came in grinning, saying, "Doc, it's like I've got the reins back." This isn't about turning something you enjoy into homework. It's still meant to be pleasant. But learning your own patterns means fewer surprises when it matters most. That kind of quiet confidence takes a load off your mind. So see this as a low-pressure way to get familiar with what your body does. You'll be glad for it later. Up next, I want to show you why keeping this part of yourself alive matters even if you're not partnered or not in the mood often. It's about staying connected to something that's still very much yours. Let me ask you something honest. When was the last time you felt a little heat inside just from a memory, a daydream, or your own touch? A lot of older men figure that part of life is mostly done. They let it fade without meaning to. But your brain is actually your biggest sex organ. Those pathways that stir up desire and get everything firing need use to stay strong. If you ignore them for too long, they quiet down. That doesn't have to be the way it goes. Masturbation isn't just about now. It keeps those circuits active so when you do want more, everything's still there waiting. Think of it like turning over the engine on an old car once in a while so it doesn't lock up. Jim, 74, laughed when I first brought this up. He said he figured the old motor had rusted shut. A couple months later he came back chuckling that, turns out it still purrs just fine. That put a spark back in him nothing else could. Even if you don't have a partner or if your spouse isn't able anymore, this is still about you, your sense of being alive, your own small joys. So don't write it off or see it as something you've outgrown. It's part of staying connected to yourself. Next, we'll go over why it's also important to watch for quiet risks so this stays a good thing, not something that sneaks in problems later. That way, you get all the benefits without the headaches. Let me be straight with you. Everything we've talked about shows how masturbation can be a healthy part of your life after 60. But like anything else, it can slip into patterns that quietly start working against you if you're not paying attention. Sometimes it replaces real connections. I've seen men pull back from family dinners, old fishing buddies, even simple walks in the park, spending more time alone with their screens. Roger, 67, fell into that after his wife passed. Night after night, he'd just stay home, passing the hours by himself. Slowly, it left him feeling more alone, not less. Then there's being too rough. Your skin changes with age. It doesn't bounce back like it did at 20. Being in a hurry, using the same tight grip, or skipping lubricant can lead to soreness or tiny tears that take forever to heal. Staying gentle matters more than ever. And heavy use of porn is another one. It can quietly train your mind to expect only those fast, extreme scenes. Then a real, warm partner might not seem as exciting. Your brain needs a mix, not just endless videos. What I always tell men is this isn't about shame or strict rules. It's about noticing if your habits start crowding out the rest of your life. Enjoy private time, but keep it balanced so it adds to your days, not fences you off. Coming up, we'll talk about other subtle risks that can sneak by, and how to keep this part of your life steady and worry-free. Stick with me, it's all simple stuff that pays off big. Here's something you might never have guessed. A lot of the little problems I see around masturbation in older men don't come from the act itself. They come from how it's done without a second thought, over and over. Take posture. I've had plenty of men come in saying they felt a weird numbness or dull ache in their groin. After talking, it turns out they always sat on a hard chair, leaned forward awkwardly, and put pressure right on the nerves in the pelvis. Over time, that can irritate the pudendal nerve. Switching to lying back with a pillow or simply changing positions can save you a lot of grief. Alan, 65, found himself using masturbation mostly as a way to fill empty afternoons after retiring. It became a habit that crowded out simple joys like coffee with a friend or tinkering in his garage. When we talked it through, he started adding back those old pleasures. Soon, his private time felt like one good part of a bigger life again. There's also old guilt that can creep in. Maybe you grew up hearing it was shameful. Even decades later, that feeling can linger. If you finish and then feel regret or self-doubt, that's worth gently exploring. Sometimes just understanding where those thoughts came from makes all the difference. And if you're trying for kids, it's smart to know daily release might drop sperm count a bit. Waiting 2 to 5 days can give you a stronger sample. It doesn't hurt long-term, just something small to keep in mind. Next, let's pull this all together. I want to give you one simple, encouraging way to see your health, and your age, that might change how you look at tomorrow. Let me leave you with something I've learned after decades of listening to men just like you. The year on your driver's license says nothing about how alive you still are. Sure, your body changes. But the part of you that craves closeness, touch, and a little spark, that doesn't retire just because you've passed 60 or 70. Too many men let life shrink because they figure they're supposed to. They stop chasing small pleasures, stop exploring what still lights them up. And slowly, they feel smaller inside too. One of my oldest friends, now 82, told me, "The day you quit being curious about what makes you feel good is the day you truly start getting old." I think he's right. Staying alive isn't just a heartbeat. It's keeping your mind, your heart, and even your private self tuned in. So if today gave you anything, relief, a question, a small laugh, I'm glad. If it helped you see yourself with a little more respect and less worry, that's even better. If you found this helpful, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe, maybe share this with another man who might quietly wonder about the same things, or pitch in to help keep these talks going. The link's down below if you ever feel moved. Take good care of yourself. Your best days aren't behind you. They're right here, waiting for you to reach out. I'll be here, ready for our next chat. Looking forward to it already.